Hello, welcome to this low carbon conversation with my dear friend Asif Din from Head of Sustainability at Perkins+Will and Chris Webb, my also dear friend, Head of Sustainability at Bennett. Thanks, guys. Lots to talk about today. I'm going to start with you, Asif, just about your experience over the last couple of years, how you think the market's changed a bit with regards to demand for sustainability.
Ooh, demand for sustainability. Well, demand for sustainability has gone up. Literally, people are thinking more about their workforce. I don't think there's any blue chip company now that is not out there and is basically saying we're going to continue as business as normal because of the pandemic and everything else. They're looking more and more at their workforce and they're basically saying, what can we do for you in that sort of sense? How do we attract staff and how do we retain staff? And that has been the critical driver, I think, in terms of the construction industry, this uplift in wellness overall.
And in terms of the clients themselves, are they understanding what sustainability is better? Are they still fairly clueless? Where are they on the education curve? How's that? How have you found that?
I think it really depends. It depends often if they've got their own in-house sustainability manager. So yeah. I'd recommend that to all clients. Get one in because it makes our life easier in getting the brief right and delivering the projects. I think often there is an education piece where clients have to relate what they do on a day-to-day basis with actually what we can do in the designs that we deliver to them.
And increasingly the focus is carbon, right?
Increasing the focus is carbon. I think we need to be really careful that it's not the only miles per gallon indicator because carbon can equal air pollution, it can equal resource consumption, it can equal water pollution, many different things. So it's not just our only indicator, but I would say it is by a long way the dominant force in our work.
Can we not make it the only indicator? I feel like when we have lots of indicators, it gets too complicated. Can we just say carbon, carbon, carbon and forget the rest?
Well, no, I don't think you can. We could just say it's carbon and no, but you know, and people would be happy in terms of the clients would be happy. It will be something that feeds into their boards, in terms of their reporting. They'll be really quite happy with all of that. But in matter of fact, as has been said, effectively, that would just mean that effectively everything else goes by the wayside. So, you know, resiliency, sort of like circular economy, longevity of product, health and wellness. There's a range of different things, but do you want indicators for all of them?
I think if we have too many indicators, it's really hard to prioritise. I think most of those things would fall under carbon on some level as well.
Well, I'd say that that's our job, essentially. Our job is effectively to square that circle. It's effectively having that range of different things and looking where those negative feedback loops could exist. We're future gazing to a certain degree, effectively on what those things may come back and bite us. We don't want that. We don't want that for our clients. But our clients, I don't think, understand that system. And if you don't understand that system, you can have one metric. But you know, when I do, say, a life cycle analysis, I've always got one eye on effectively circular economy, thinking about the longevity of products, human health in terms of the materials we're using, supply chain impacts. I'm thinking about all of those things. And in matter of fact, you know, sort of like, I'm giving that to them whether they like it or not.
And well, so on that then, do you think carbon is in danger of pushing out those? Are we having people getting so focused on carbon that some of those things are being pushed out of the picture?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the good thing is that there's a lot of links. So we've probably all got our ideas in our head of what a sustainable product might be. And in environmental terms, I'd say that's generally a natural material. We avoid glues, we have mechanical fastenings, we get the health and wellness benefits from it too, in that you'll have better indoor air quality, you'll probably have better biophilia. So I think there is so many links, but it is our job to make sure that the whole picture is presented and the story's out there. So if we focus on carbon, we can forget about all the items Asif mentioned, biophilia to go with it, biodiversity. So I think the whole package is important.
On that, so I mean, just go back to defining a sustainable product. I think the problem we've had for a while is there so many different definitions as to what that looks like? And
Yes.
so for a while and continues to exist.
Yeah.
How do we resolve that?
I don't know. It's the honest answer.
That's
But-
what you're here for.
No.
Give me the answer.
I can't give you an answer. on
Give me the
that,
answer.
Because, as we said, it's multifaceted. You can't just basically say, that's the one thing. You know, Chris mentioned, is it a natural material? There's plenty of natural materials out there that are harmful to the environment, harmful to human beings. Asbestos is essentially a natural ingredient, after all. You know,
Well, Chris, why are you promoting asbestos? Come on.
it's sort of like, but it's up to us in terms of our knowledge to actually know what is good and what is bad. And the best I can do, essentially, as a sort of like a sustainability expert, is give that to our designers. Is basically give that, let's call it a sustainability compass. Effectively, I'm heading into a better direction. I'm heading into a worse direction. That's all I can really do.
So if I can make it about carbon, because we are here
All
to
right.
talk about
Okay.
carbon.
All right.
How are you doing that with your designers now? What does that conversation look like? What are the expectations you put upon them? What's the education you give them? Are you trying to create minimum standards around, say, embodied carbon for material types? I don't know how you get a design function that brings down the overall piece without expecting them to think in the round, which.
Sure. I mean, so we know from our experience that it's generally about the top 25 or so products on a job that have the biggest impact. So we know roughly where to focus. We know it is things like partitioning, the glazing that doesn't really have a great second life, are really problematic items for us. So that's where we need to be putting our focus. So we're starting to get that data. So now we know where to look more than we used to. The next thing we're doing is understanding the carbon footprint of those products. And I think the initial way the industry was doing it, which was just to look at the cradle to gate, isn't good enough. We need to look at the whole life cycle of those products from beginning to end, hopefully end of life being reuse. So we're getting better at understanding those, being more informed, understanding the life cycle stages, and then finally to get an idea of what a good carbon number is for those different products and to be able to make a decision based around what is a good number, what is a good product, and what's going to happen to it at the end of its life.
I'm a cradle to gate guy. So
Why are you a
Why?
cradle to gate?
Yeah.
Why? Go tell us, why are you a cradle to gate?
because cradle to gate, you can get a pretty robust number. You don't
I
have
know,
to-
but that might be just a rubbish number at the end of the day. Because, as a matter of fact, it
But
takes
it's real. But that number's real.
Well, yeah,
After
it's,
that, you're guessing.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
guessing beyond that.
absolutely.
Are you removing the pressure then for somebody to do the right thing at the end of its life because you're saying we're not worried about it?
Or during its life, because effectively
during
you've got to replace it X billion amount of time because it's a very good material.
So I think it's
Cradle to gate.
Cradle to gate divided by I
So
suppose,
divided by, oh right, we're going to have a fudge factor now.
cradle to gate divided by the length of warranty. That's the metric. That's the
Why?
But what if the warranty is 25 years and the lease is 5 years? So it's going to be out in 5 years.
This is why you're here.
And also, in terms of those warranties, as soon as you move a product, the warranty's void. You've got to watch that as well in terms of sort of like, you know, we talk about reuse, you know, and this is something that I've just, you know, sort of like, problem that I've had recently on a project is that effectively, yes, we got a 25-year warranty on this object. If we move it after 5 years, the warranty is null and void. So it's actually convincing the supplier again that they can re-warranty that for just for that remaining life.
I don't think that matters so much because the warranty is a legal bit, but the fact that they're willing to put a 25-year warranty on it is some level of trust that they've got
No,
some
because
faith in the product.
well, that may be faith in the product, but that might not be faith in the market. In the sense that effectively they know it's an office fit-out project. Realistically, it's going to get moved in 10 years, so we can give a 50-year warranty on it. We're never going to be
I
called
think
on
they're
it.
just interesting.
Yeah, I think the average lease is 5 to 7 years now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
So
getting shorter and
you
shorter.
can warranty that glazing for as long as you want, but someone's going to come and smash it up in 5 years' time.
Do you think?
So the pressure should be on, thinking as designers, how do we make that glazing more likely to be reused? Maybe as contractors working with the designers, how do you fit it so it's got a chance of being taken apart again? And And as the producers of the glazing in the first place, how can they make it so they can take it back and reuse it? That's what I think the challenge
Actually,
is.
I'm going to go back onto the warranty thing. I think the biggest market at the moment for circularity is two things: storage,
Yeah.
because you just need stock somewhere, and then warranties. Re-warranting stuff is vitally important for making a circular economy work and actually reducing carbon overall. If we don't have those two things, then,
Which some trades have managed to do, right?
well, yeah.
Some are doing it pretty successfully.
Well, sort of like the classic example is raised flooring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Companies effectively are going in, getting reclaimed raised flooring and then re-warranting it for X number of years. But that's what you need.
So why is that? What's the barrier that needs to be overcome? Why are not more people doing that? That's giving you that volume. What's the barrier stopping it?
We've had our first fully remanufactured floor, more or less, which we did with yourselves actually, on a Canary Wharf project for a bank. I think the trickier part than the warranties actually, and perhaps even the cost, is the logistics. So you have to have the right amount of chairs available. You have to be able to match the look and feel that the designers want, and have that logistical flow. Actually, you were talking about space. I think the logistics is a really important part.
On the storage piece, there's quite a few companies that have managed to make the model work, but you're right, they're not really any cheaper than buying new.
No.
But they have a big storage facility. You've also got the logistics of taking it to a storage facility, so you've got two.
Yes.
And as a result, there's a big old cost there in the two movements and the logistics.
Well,
if you take,
I want to hold you up on that. Because we don't actually know what the full supply chain is of a piece of furniture coming from a factory. How many stop-off points does it have? How many movements does it actually have? Nobody's really fully tracked that. You get an EPD.
So I'm on reused furniture here.
I know, but I'm just saying, you're saying that that's better than new.
No, but cost-wise, it's not at the moment, is it?
No.
Because of this. I'm saying if you can cut out that middle position,
Yeah.
if you can have a tech solution that enables people to adequately display what's available, and then people can purchase it, and you can skip out the storage and the 2 minutes logistics, it would dramatically reduce that.
It would dramatically reduce it, but there are some tech solutions that actually do that now. But it's literally, I want a chair, I can get it tomorrow or the end of the week. But if a designer's designing a chair for a certain look and feel, we can't hold on to it for 3-4 months. It's all about timing, especially in our industry.
It's timing.
And that's that delay in timing to accumulate the right look and feel, making sure that all comes together logistically, requires that storage piece. It's no use having it that is a live resource. It'd be fantastic if we could do that, but realistically, that doesn't happen with clients at the moment, simply because our projects are that long.
I think, to me, that just brings in a point we've all talked about previously in our sector, which is more of a union between the different moving parts in a project. So the client, the project management teams, the furniture suppliers, the main suppliers, and the contractor, not last but least, and the end user and the FM teams. And they all come in different stages, which in my view are too far apart. And the more we can bring them together earlier, when all the decisions happen, when all the problems are being solved, the more chance we've got of breaking this sort of mould.
So what would that look like? Flesh it out.
What did it look like to me? It would look like a contractor coming on board in stage 2, which I know is an extremely rare thing. I think the whole of the supply chain being worked out early on, and the tender process being more geared around sustainability, all in these early stages, so that we can solve the problems of supply chains, logistics, the remanufacturing issue could be brought in, the sustainability spec is all condensed at the beginning and delivered through the longer period would be how I would prefer it to run. And
we can't have that because of procurement, essentially. What's
I think it's just tradition. So we are seeing more 2-stage approaches to tendering, which give the chance for the contractors to come in earlier and give their knowledge. I think it's just a change of minds that we need personally, and I don't think it's as insurmountable as it should be. If we've got a bank of materials in an existing building and it's going to be a contractor that's taking them and putting them in, then why wait so that they never get to see that bank of materials? It'd be much better if they could come on board, be part of that process, look at how they're going to be refurbished and taken on.
Do you want to just talk about the concept of a bank of materials and that? And because I think some people are familiar with
And just to go against your cradle to gate point,
I'm regretting that already.
don't worry. So we're talking about the end of life now. So we've got a building. It's fully kitted out. Often the stuff's really valuable. Often it's in good condition. It's salvageable. It's reusable. So that's our bank of materials. So currently, what happens is generally a demolition contractor will come in. They'll look at different options for those products, but more or less they'll do what we said. They'll get smashed up in somewhere or other, perhaps recycled. But we know they'll be hitting the lower areas of the waste hierarchy. So we need to change that and keep them at the top of the waste hierarchy. And the best way of doing that is to rethink how we look at those materials, rethink the demolition audit or the pre-refurbishment audit, and think of it more as a resource audit, where those items have got a better chance of being reused. And I think the best way to do that is to have the designers walk through the building with the future contractors and the client and think what can become a material for reuse and remanufacture rather than discard.
And critical contractors, I think you put 2 contractors there,
Yes,
3 contractors there.
Make them work for it.
Yeah, make them compete for what's the maximum amount of reuse we can do here, rather than, as I said, turning up at stage 4 and a lot of the decisions are already made and it's all done, and easier said than done.
Easier said than
maybe
done.
not. Maybe it's
I
not
don't know
easier
why
than
sometimes it is that difficult. I think it's just a change of minds and a change of approach, but I don't think it's that radical.
Okay, moving on to away from the actual products to your people. What are you doing to upskill your people internally to make them more comfortable understanding these issues, talking about these issues, driving these issues?
Oh, that's a bit of a different.
What are you doing?
What am I doing in terms of training? Actually, I think it's quite low scale, to be quite honest. It's more that it's working on the job, sort of like training on the job overall, so that effectively they're learning bits and pieces as they go along. It's all very good giving, sort of like everybody the same training, but they're all at different stages of their project. And then if you give them that training, they may not see that phase of that bit of the project again for, say, another 6 months.
Yeah.
So rather than saying, like, we're going to give blanket training to everybody on a particular item, it's better to give mini bits of training on the bits that they actually need at that time for their particular project. But it goes across the board. It goes through resilience, adaptation, health and well-being, also in terms of, sort of like traditional sustainability in terms of carbon, energy and water. Yeah.
So we've tried the blanket training approach, which in hindsight, which has maybe done what you've just said, because you do the piece of training and then 6 months later something comes up and you get the...
It's like using a piece of BIM software. Like, you can do BIM training, but if somebody's not going to use BIM for a year, and then you're going to say, right, well, you've had training in it, pick it up. They'll be going, I did have training, but I've forgotten it all.
Yeah. Is that the same approach for you guys? How are you?
Yeah, I mean, we're really lucky. There's a person in our sustainability team, and her passion is upskilling and training people. So she's constantly driving that process. I think we try and do it as much through hearts and minds as we do through technical training. So we do have regular talks and CPDs, and I think it is just trying to get the message over that every decision you make should have sustainability in it. And I think that's our underlying training, actually, quite frankly, that we're trying to deliver. There is the balance between that and the technical training, absolutely. I think probably the best way of getting an outcome is just to try and keep life as simple as you can on a complicated topic, and that goes back to what we were talking about with carbon versus all the other metrics we could throw in. So we know that the sustainability team at TP Bennett, we're trying to deal with multiple projects at once, so the answer is to have everybody upskilled and as enabled as they possibly can, to give them tools and software and data to make their own informed decisions. So we're rewriting the tools, we're producing new software, and they're offering training on that side of life to try and get them to do it. So it's ease of access of information to me, because the designers, architects, they're smart people, they're used to problem solving. So I think as long as they know the issue, they've got the tools, I think they're really capable of getting to outcomes.
That's completely opposite for me, effectively, because I am effectively the sustainability team. So it's actually my job to make sure that everybody's sustainability compass is pointing in the right direction. And that's all I'm doing. So pretty much what Chris has said, effectively, it's the hearts and minds bit. But my hearts and minds, my model, so to speak, is effectively, is the arrow pointing in the right direction? Do you know good from bad? It's all like being in I don't know, the cockpit of an aeroplane. Some of the dials are going up, some of the dials are going down. Mm-hmm. Do you know which dials are supposed to be going up? Do you know which ones are supposed to be down? And do you know which ones need to be zero? And that's all I'm effectively doing for the designers.
Because until pretty recently, I've been interested with pretty recently, most designers, certainly most contractors, wouldn't have had a sense of what the embodied carbon of a design was, right? They'd have had no sense whether it's good or bad or indifferent. It's a pretty new bit of knowledge they've got.
But, you know, sort of like, even I find it tough. Sort of like you say, right, okay, for an average table, what's a good benchmark? What's a bad benchmark? What should we be aiming for? I don't actually know. To be quite honest,
You don't know?
No.
You know everything.
No, I don't.
Just get out. Aside from your training internally, what about the industry? What does the industry need to be doing in terms of upskilling that it's not doing in a broader sense?
I think it's having general team members on projects understanding more about sustainability, and I think being given a really strong brief and a push by their businesses. So if you're the project management company, you should be delivering sustainability as a project manager, not as a sustainable employee of that company. So I think it's just moving that dial so that it's in everybody's job description and it's in everybody's decision-making process. Because when we have projects where the whole of the design team is on message, they're all working to the same outcome, that harmony's fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think it's the sustainability in everybody's day job and that message to be going across all companies and across all projects so that we don't have to fight that battle. We just help deliver it is really the answer that I'm after.
We're working on one together in Canary Wharf with a fantastic client that gave a great brief, and everyone's bought in, and it's such a great job to work on when it's clear that it's fundamental to the whole thing. It's not an add-on at the end. It's not can we add something in the last 2 minutes of stage 4. It's been fundamental to every choice, but that until recently was pretty unheard of for it to be that fundamental.
But I think it brings teams together. I don't know if I'm being a bit naive because I live and breathe it, but actually I think people do want to work on sustainable projects. They take pride in the outcome. It's such a selling point for end users to give to the new people that are going to use the building. So I think when everybody's got that aim, I don't think it's like wildly difficult sometimes to all be working on the same piece and to have those goals set just as you have a cost goal.
So each time we've done this, we've blamed usually the designers when they're not in the room. As you guys are here, who are you going to blame? Who's the problem? Is it the contractor? Is it the engineer?
Well, you're
Is it
the
project
contractor. I
manager?
can't really blame you.
I mean,
Hopefully
hopefully not specifically me, but where's the weak bit in the process?
All right, I'm going to blame the client. I think that's
the
right. I'm going to bite the hand that feeds me, literally, and basically blame the client.
That is ballsy.
That is, but I have to agree. Actually, I think probably 8 out of 10 briefs that we get are incorrect. They're not asking for the right outcomes in terms of sustainability, and it is our job to challenge it
and
push it. But you're already on the back foot. So I think if the briefs were right in the first place, the budget sat behind it, because there's no point asking for a brief that can't then be afforded, that's not realistic, then we'd be in a better place. So it is a shame when you start on the back foot and you have to try and mould the brief to fit what you think is ethically right. But yeah, I agree, often it is wrong in the very, very first place. And I don't know if that's necessarily just the client's fault or if it's the people putting the brief together's fault or us for not pushing it enough, I'm not sure. But
well, it's sort of like, I think you're probably right. I was probably simplistic saying the client. Effectively, it is the brief and how that has actually been put together. And whether that is a client, whether it's a project manager, whether it's the people administrating that brief. I think, it's sort of like, let's go back to what good looks like in terms of the client that we have in Canary Wharf. They had good stakeholder engagement. They knew exactly what the stakeholders wanted. They had a clear vision, clear brief. So from that, we were able to design and have that as a top priority all the way through the project. The opposite is, true. Sort of like sometimes you have something that is a clear targets. They don't understand the targets, And then most of the time, if they don't understand the targets get eroded. And that's probably the point I was making towards Chris's. So, sort of like, you start off with, we want this to be the most sustainable project in Europe, or passive house brief, or something, sort of like very, very ambitious. And then they say, well, we can see the cost difference here, we can see the time difference here. How important is this to us? Oh, I don't know quite who put that in the brief, sort of like, and then it gets slowly eroded. And then effectively you end up with, for want of a better expression, sort of like, it may have good design outputs, but it wouldn't be a sustainable project.
I think you've hit the net. So it's not the client. The client's often a layperson in this situation, right? The client has hired some professionals to help develop that brief.
Yeah.
So we usually blame you guys, but maybe it's the design. It gets tricky that. How do you resolve it? How do you improve it? I think it has improved, right? It has got better over the last couple of years.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes I find myself in the position where the brief's wrong. It's quite hard to pitch against the wrong brief and tell them that the brief's wrong whilst trying to win the job. But you have to try and put that on the table at the same time. And then when you win it, then you have to try and revise the brief and put it in the place that you think is correct. So the problem with that process is you're already on the back foot.
Sometimes I think both myself and Chris, effectively, we're seen as slightly the outsiders because we're adding complication to the game. But it's complication that the clients need to understand because it's something that they'll have to address, not perhaps today, but they will need to address it in a few years' time. They have to. It will be legally mandatory that they have to.
That complication of the game, I mean, that's our experience as well, is that people have got time and they've got a budget to hit and big program pressures. And then the nature of sustainability is you're coming along saying it's a bit more complicated than that. And it's quite a difficult place to be because you generally feel like you're being the awkward one in the room, which long term is going to solve the more problems. But in the short term, you've got that tension of, can we just slow down a second? That's a bad decision.
I don't think it always needs to affect the programme, actually. I think it
sorry.
does. I think it does add complication on occasion, but I mean, I think it's the classic problem solving. I mean, architects, designers, they are problem solvers by nature. Project managers are problem solvers by nature, and contractors are problem solvers by nature. So we are putting another item on the table, but we have seen that when everybody's working the right way, it can be unpicked, and it can be really satisfying to unpick it. So I think we just need to be not scared to do that unpicking and to spend a bit of time doing it. And I know that not all projects think like that, but the more projects that do, the harder it is for those that don't to do that. And also, I must pick up on something that Asif said, which is that it's not just the client's issue and the project management team's issue in the brief. Actually, we do have responsibility as our own companies. We've got our own values, and we are there as sustainability professionals. So if a project isn't going the right way, I know that the great thing about your company and mine is that we work to do sustainability on all the projects anyway. So that is our mandate for the company, and the same for you. So we also have to put our own hands up and make our own difference, regardless of whether the client wants it or not. And I think if we do that and we show the examples, as you said with your life cycle analysis, then you are helping the projects along the way too. So I think it's really important to know that we have our own footprint too.
Yeah. Even if nothing's in the brief, there's still a responsibility.
Even if nothing's in the brief, I'm really glad you mentioned that because that is such a valuable
and that's not
piece
picked
to get
up
out.
anywhere, to be quite honest. In terms of corporate reporting or whatever else, we do it because it's our reputation, essentially, at the end of the day. And, sort of like adding that extra lens. Say, before COVID, let's say 5 years ago, there'd be hardly anything within the brief on sustainability. So you were starting off on a really low bar because you were introducing all of these subjects to the client or to the design team and basically say, no, we've got to factor all of these things in. Post-COVID, all of those things are there. They may not be understood, but they're still there. So you're actually... I'm at a lot better place than I was, say, 5 years ago, in terms of, being in the room and being the awkward one, as you put it, Yeah,
you're in the room now.
I am in the room, and I am, sort of like, and people are turning to me and basically saying, is this right, is this wrong, or what do we need to do here? And that's a lot better place to be than basically saying, excuse me, we've got to talk about this because I don't think this is right. And sometimes they just say, well, let us talk, you know. We don't want to really raise that issue at the moment.
So I want to finish up by asking you both the same question we've been finishing all these. If there's one thing you could change about the industry to improve it from a carbon point of view, what's the one thing you could change? And it really can be as big or as small as you wish. You can wave a magic wand, and it will be true.
Can I choose two and be greedy?
No. Well, unless you can, well, you can pitch your second one to Chris and see if he chooses it.
Go on, go for it.
All right, okay, the first one is transparency. Effectively, I don't want to become a contractor. Thank God. I don't want to become a supplier. I don't want to become a manufacturer. But I do need to know, as in much depth as possible, effectively what each and every person is doing. And that means changing business practices to a large degree. We've got to be open book about our costs. Contractors have to be open book about theirs. Materials have to be completely open book about all the chemicals that are in their product. It's quite easy to go into a supermarket and see on the back of a loaf of bread exactly the ingredients you go in. Pick up a chair or a table, that's kind of difficult.
Yeah.
All right, the second one, Chris, you ready? All of the players need to be in the room early. I think that's pretty much been decided.
Yeah.
But also we need to have those standardization of things across the board so everybody's talking about the same thing. If you have that in terms of data, transparency, then you'll know what you have. You won't be surveying as much. You won't be turning up to somewhere and saying, what's this? What's inside it? Do you know what's inside it? Because all of that will be there, it'll be ready. Things are measured in the same way, so you can say, this is better than that. If you can do all of those things within a contract, within the building industry, get all the players in the room, have that transparency, then effectively, resources should be effectively a lot easier to handle. And resource management, in terms of not only what you're putting in day one, but also what you're taking out from other buildings and then putting into your new project, should also be a lot easier.
Got loads of follow-up questions. Chris?
Right, so I would say that we are used to thinking about price, performance and programme on our projects, but we need to bring pollution prevention and purpose to the table at the same time.
Good job there, began with a P. That was lucky, wasn't it?
It's all up here, Joe.
Yeah.
So in other words, we just need sustainability to be part of all key decision-making processes. And that in that way, we just need to be unconsciously sustainable. So it's just what we do as a sector.
And that's unconsciously sustainable way beyond sustainability professionals. That's everyone.
Yeah, way beyond sustainability professionals. Every decision thinks about sustainability. Every stakeholder's thinking about sustainability. And it's just the main factor, or at least an equal factor in all processes.
Brilliant. Well, the wand has been waved. Those two things have now happened.
Amazing.
We've done it.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you both ever so much for coming in. I feel brighter than when you arrived. Can we get some more caffeine, please?